Hey, how's it going? It's been a while. It's been a couple weeks since my live stream, since we've last talked. But I wanted to come to you today because I've been silent for too long. I need to address it. And obviously it's in the news. I want to talk to you about my experience as a black man. I know. Shocking that I'm black. But I have proof. This is my dad and me, and right beside is my mom. I am mixed, 50% black and 50% white. Now, with that, I have my own fair share of racism, inequality in certain instances, and I've had a few run-ins with the police. Luckily, I'm still here. I don't have any tickets in my name, but I want to share those stories. I want to share a couple of stories with you guys and my experiences all together. So I'm going to break it down into 3 parts. I don't know how long this video is going to be. I don't really have a format, but I'm breaking it into 3 parts. 1, I'm going to talk about my parents, because my mom and my dad, I know my mom being white, she's also had her fair share of racial inequality. I'm going to talk about myself and what I've went through. And I'm going to talk about the 2 times I've had run-ins with the police, because they're interesting. Now, before, I just want to give you, I'm going to say the N-word a lot. A lot. If that word makes you uncomfortable, maybe you shouldn't watch this video. But if you do stick with this video, it's not coming from a place of malice. I've been called the N-word plenty times. I'm sure a lot of you out there have heard someone call someone it, or you have been called it as well. So growing up, my household was interracial. Obviously, me and my little brother were mixed. My mom is white and my dad's black. I have an older brother named Dakota, who is white, 100% white. He's my half brother, and my little brother is my full blood brother. Share whatever. We were family. We grew up in an interracial household, but we all loved each other to the best of our abilities, I guess. And growing up with a white mom and a black dad, I have seen both sides of the racial spectrum, I guess is what you can call. I have seen my mom be pulled over by the police just for being with my dad for something as simple as running a yellow light, for waiting in a turning lane until the traffic stops. And my mom has been called a nigger lover a lot by her own family. And people down the street, when they get mad, they love throwing that N-word. Like, oh, it like that is going to hurt. And it stopped hurting my mom, but it bothered me because they were calling my dad a nigger, and they were calling me one. They were calling my little brother one. So my dad, obviously, is black. My dad has had run-ins with the police. My dad has been pulled over plenty of times. I remember my dad, one time we were in Charleston, West Virginia, and we ran out of gas on the bridge heading into South Charleston. The cops showed up, and they were like, oh, this broken down car. And it's just me, my brothers, and my mom were in there. They started shining the flashlights on us. My mom was like, oh, my husband, he went down to the gas station to get some gas. We just ran out of gas. And they're just sitting there. A couple of them with hands on their holsters. My dad approaches. They go into defensive mode. Like, wait, stop right there. You know, my dad's like, I'm just here to get gas. And once my dad kind of de-escalates the situation, they let him on his way. But I remember my mom telling me, you know, Chandler, don't reach for anything. Chandler, don't make any sudden movements. Isaiah, don't make any sudden movements. My mom instilled in us very early on that this world is cruel. This world is cold. Very early on. I've seen it. I've dealt with it. I'm no stranger. Those are just one of many stories. But on to me. On to myself. You're thinking, Chandler, your situation must be very similar to your dad's. And in some instances it is. But it was very different. It's very sneaky. The stuff I've dealt with was very slimy, I guess is what I can call it. I was often called the whitest black kid in the school. I was often told, Chandler, you're not black. You're tan. Chandler, you're a white kid with a tan. Oh, Chandler, you're not black, and I don't consider you black. I don't see color when I see you. And that bothered me. I didn't know why. I basically, all through fourth grade to when I graduated, that bothered me. Some of my friends will even say it. And I was like, why does that bother me so much? Why? Like, why do I care? These people weren't calling me the N-word, although I did get my fair share of that. I'll talk about that in a minute. Why did that bother me so much? And it wasn't until I was older then I realized that these people, they had a stereotype in their head at what black people should act like, what they should look like, what they should talk like. I was quiet. I played video games. I played card games. I played Yu-Gi-Oh! I hung out with the nerdy kids in school. Those were my friends. I would like to have been friends with everyone, but they didn't see me like that. I was often told that, I couldn't date white girls because of their dads. A lot of people hear those stories, but I can tell you with 100% certainty that those are true. I dated a girl one time, and me and her were together for almost a year, but on and off. And her mom messaged me one time and told me that she would call the law on me because she was like a year younger than me. I was a senior, she was a junior. But then I remember she was telling me how like her mother had a bigger issue than that. Like she was really mad for some reason. I knew what the reason was. I don't think she was naive. I think she knew, but she couldn't accept it. But I already accepted it. I was often, an outcast from the white side of my family and the black side of my family. I was too black to be white in my white family, and I was also too white to be black. I just stopped caring. I knew who I was. I'm a black man. Now when I'm older, I'm getting it too. I'm getting it too when I'm older. I'm 25. I'm still getting it. People look at me and they're like, "You're black?" "No, I thought you were Mexican. You look Samoan. You don't look black. You don't act black. I never thought you were black." The sheer idea of me being black is astronomical. Why? Why? Because I look like my mom? Because I'm quiet? What stereotype do you have in your head that I need to conform to in order to be black? I would often joke as a kid, like, "Oh, I don't like watermelon." Like I would say that to see the reaction of people because it's so funny. I would be like, "I don't like watermelon." I'd be like, "Oh, you don't like watermelon?" Shit like that. I was also called a nigger a lot in school. I walked down the school hallways and was called a nigger by a lot of the good old boys, a lot of the rednecks. I know a lot of good old boys around here, and they're nice people. They're cool. But there's a couple bad apples that ruin a bunch. And it's just, the stereotypes are true. They went in packs. They often followed me to try to get a reaction out of me. And a lot of times when people would pick on me in school, I'm a big kid. But a lot of people could pick on me. I wouldn't do anything. Because I knew, and I knew it well, that if I did anything, I would get in a lot of trouble. Just if the mere fact of me defending myself, I would get in trouble. So a lot of people just use that as an excuse to walk all over me. I shouldn't. Looking back, I should have. But that's just the system we're in. Or I was in. People don't know if I'm black or white. They just know I'm different. I got that a lot. I go down the school highways. I get dirty looks. Now as a 25-year-old man, I still get dirty looks. Going out to eat. Hanging out with my friends. I've heard a lot of people tell me that there's a difference between black people and niggers. I've been told that a lot. I mean a lot. "Oh, Chandler, you're black. This kid is a nigger." Why do you feel comfortable telling me that? Why do you feel comfortable breaking down the N-word in front of me? It's because I make people feel safe. And it's just funny because they see me and I don't act like... We had this kid that was from Dayton, Ohio, black kid. And he was every stereotype that people think of when they think of a black person. That was not me. When I arrived at my school, I was the only black kid in school. There was one other black kid, but I was one of 2 black people in my school, in my grade. The other black kid was he was like me, a little darker, already accepted. But me, I was a quiet little black kid. Oh, he's white. Then the other black kid showed up, the kid from Dayton, Ohio. Oh, Chandler, you don't act like him. So he's white. That's conforming to a stereotype. That's why it bothered me so much. Because they're being sneaky with their racism. And I'm sorry if this sounds very liberal or very snowflakey, but if you look at me or another black person and you say, you act white, you are white, you're dark white, you're Oreo, that's racist. I'm sorry. You have a stereotype of what black people should act like in your head. And you're trying to conform the other people to act like that. That's racist. You may not look at a black person and call them a nigger. Or you may not look at black people. You may look at black people and allow them in your store. But if you look at a black person like myself and you're like, oh, he doesn't act like this black person. He's not black. Stereotype. That's black. That's racist. And lastly, to leave you on this second part, because I've been talking for too long about this. Remember, the first time I ever voted, I was going up to the voting booth. I lived at home. I crossed the road because it was at a fire department. I crossed the highway. And as I'm crossing the highway, a car passes me. Screams, "Nigger!" I love that story because it's just, I was probably the only black person in the history of that town to ever vote. I think I go down in the history books. I think I was. That was monumental to me. I loved it. You can't stop me from voting. I'm equal. Like they are. And lastly, I want to talk about my 2 experience, well, 3 technically. One's a short story. With my involvement with the police of myself. First time, it wasn't with me. I didn't get pulled over, but my fiance got pulled over. I didn't know why she got pulled over. Like, I kind of assumed it was speeding, but I needed to know. It's the first time she ever got pulled over. So I go into defensive mode. I'm like, oh shit, I need to find out what happened. So she pulls over. Cop pulls up behind her. Lights on. She's crying. I see her crying. I pull up. And I had my hands up. And I was like, approaching the officer like, hey, can you tell me what happened? Cop looks at me and goes, she was speeding. What do you think happened? And I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, you need to go back to your car where you came from. I was like, yes, sir. I had my hands up and I walked away. I was so afraid of dying that night. My girlfriend got pulled over at the time. She got pulled over for a speeding ticket. For speeding. And I thought I was going to die. The second story, my mom just got out of the hospital. You guys know that story. She was in a coma from December of 2016 to April 2017. First day she woke up and was able to leave the hospital. I left my home, where I live at now, and I was driving down there. There's a stop sign that's kind of hidden off to the side of where my old hometown, where I was born. I did a rolling stop, but everyone does it there. I did a rolling stop. I didn't see the cop behind me. The cop pulls me over. I have my license and I have my license. It's my dad's car, so my dad has the registration and his insurance, and he has the insurance. The car's insured in his name. So I have my license. I look for the insurance or the registration. I find it. Thank God he left it in the car that day. So I had it. Had them both. Had them ready. He's looking at it and goes, "Do you know Isaiah?" And I was like, he's like, "Yeah, that's my brother." He's like, "Oh, I know Geiger. My last name's Geiger." I was like, "Oh, cool. That's great." He's like, "Yeah, you know Claude. My dad used to work on cop cars. My dad was a mechanic for like 12, 15 years or so. Every mechanic shop he worked at had a contract with the State Highway Patrol, the district of Gallia County. So they knew my dad. They got very familiar with my dad. My dad's a cool guy. My dad's super cool. Talk to anyone. Black, white, Asian, gay, straight, trans, whatever. He will talk to anyone. So you call your Claude's boy. I was like, "Yes, sir." He's like, "All right, I'm going to let you go with the warning." I told him that before I told him I was going to pick up my mom. He's like, "Oh. Okay, well, just be careful when you go," and drove off. And I think to myself a lot. I was like, what would have happened if I wasn't my dad's son? Now no one would be like, "Oh, I would have died," but maybe I would have got a ticket. Maybe it all would have went differently. Maybe he would have asked to search my car. I think about that a lot. If I wasn't my dad's kid, then what would have happened? I shouldn't have to be my dad's son to kind of get away with something as little as a rolling stop. I've seen people get pulled over and ticketed for less, but that's kind of minor compared to this next story. So you all saw my Myrtle Beach vlog, but what I didn't tell you was that I got pulled over by the cops during our way home. So what happened was we were driving, headed home, obviously, from Myrtle Beach. We were going through North Carolina. Me and Bethany, I'm driving. We passed these two cop cars. I don't think too much of it. They're just sitting there. I don't think too much of it. As I'm driving, they come up behind me and they're speeding. Like, boom. One cop pulls up behind me. Other cop kind of pulls to my right and looking in. He's looking in. He's trying to make sure. He's trying to see who's in that car. I know he's looking at me. I know he's looking at Bethany. So I'm sitting there. I look at Bethany. I'm like, I'm getting pulled over. I don't know why. I'm not speeding, but I'm getting pulled over. So it was a 2-lane highway, and I see an exit sign. I'm like, well, at least if I get pulled over, I want to be in an exit. That way, I'm not in the highway. I don't embarrass myself. I'm just kind of off to the side. So I'm in the left lane. I see the exit sign. I skip the right lane, and I go into the exit lane. When I do that, cop pulled the lights on. I'm like, great, I'm getting pulled over, whatever. The main officer comes up behind me, asks me for my license and registration. Yes, sir. I hand it to him. He's like, what were you doing back there? And I said, well, I figured you guys were going to pull me over, so I wanted to go off on the exit side. He's like, okay. And then he just asks me, like, where you headed from? Where you from? I'm like, oh, from Ohio. And then he asks me to step out of the car for no reason. I'm not done nothing to him. He just asked me to step out of his car. So I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. This is going to go down. This is it. He stated that he pulled me over because I did an infraction. Keep that in mind when I say that. That is one of the reasons why he said he pulled me over. So then he asked me, do you consent to a vehicle search? Why do you need to? Okay. Like, I had nothing to hide. I said, sure. Like, why are you searching my vehicle? He's like, oh, well, we're doing this new training program. And my officer here, so he's a younger guy, kind of what looks like DEA a little bit. He's like, with my officer here, and it's just training program. It's just practice. We do this with everyone we pull over. okay. All right. Um, so as I'm walking back to his vehicle, he turns to me and goes, listen, this will go a lot smoother if you're just honest with me. He's like, is there anything in that car I need to know about? I said, no, I don't do that stuff. I don't condone that stuff. He's in the driver's seat. I'm in the passenger seat. Well, wow. Okay. Sorry. Something popped up in my camera there. And he proceeds to just interrogate me. He's like, oh, so where you coming from? I'm like, I'm coming from Myrtle Beach. He's like, oh, what were you doing there? I'm like, oh, I was just on vacation. I actually just proposed to my fiance in the front seat there. And he's like, oh, so she's the one, huh? I'm like, yes, sir. Meanwhile, this officer, the other officer, is interrogating my fiance, and she's stiff a little bit. She's scared. And then he looks at me and goes, everything all right? You're looking a little nervous. You're looking kind of nervous. And I said, I don't understand why you're doing all this. I don't understand why you're doing this. And he's like, first of all, you consented to a vehicle search, okay? And he's like, if you have nothing to hide, then you should be okay. I'm like, what? Fine, whatever. I'm freaking out. My girlfriend is currently being interrogated. And then he's like, oh, well, he's like, so where are you from? I'm like, I'm from Ohio, Southern Ohio. He's like, where do you work? I was like, I work at Hobby Lobby, which is true. I work at Hobby Lobby. Then he proceeds to say, well, we couldn't make out what your vehicle tags were. So that's another reason why we pulled you over. You couldn't make out what my tags were, even though literally on the outside of the tags it said Marietta, Ohio, where my fiance bought her car. Whatever, fine, great. And then he proceeds to ask me. He's like, so are you Mexican? Oh, what are you? I said, no, sir, I'm mixed. I said, okay. Meanwhile, the other cop is she's looking through our luggage. He's looking through our snack bin. He's looking under the seats. Looks at the guy and goes, nothing. There's like, all right, you have a great day. I said, thank you. Yeah, cool. And I looked at the cop and goes, so this is the reason why you pulled me over? He's like, yes. I was like, would it help if I took it off? He's like, yeah, I think it would help. And I ripped it off. Also didn't mention that meanwhile, as the cop is interrogating me in his car, a third car pulls up. I'm not an idiot. Usually when cops ask for usually when another cop car shows up, the cop has asked for backup. The cop is afraid for their life. I have done nothing in this point. I've been respectful. I have been courteous. I have answered every question that he has asked me. So they pull away. I rip off the license plate bumper thing. Drive away. I look at Bethany. I said, what did he tell you? And Bethany goes, well, he said he pulled us over because we were acting suspicious. All I did was just go from the left lane to the exit. And cop searched my car and started interrogating me. And I don't know. I hate assuming that most things are racially motivated because it's such an easy way out. But I can't shake that feeling that is what happened. So that's just a brief summary. This video has gone on much longer than I wanted it to. But I hope you stuck with it. I hope you listen to my story somewhat. But there are black people in this world. There's black people in the United States that have had worse stories than I had, that I just told you. Much worse. Some resulted in the loss of their life for no reason. Innocent black men are dying. Innocent black women are dying. Innocent trans women and men are dying in this country. And if you comment on this video, trying to pull an all lives matter and blacks commit over 50% of the crime. If you try to pull that bull crap, don't waste your time. I'm not going to respond to it. You're just going to make yourself look like an idiot. And if what I told you, when I say Black Lives Matter, I mean that shit. My life matters. My dad's life matters. My little brother's life matters. George Floyd's life mattered. Breonna Taylor's life mattered. Eric Turner's life mattered. Tamir Rice's life mattered. Trayvon Martin's life mattered. There's just a few of the famous ones, let alone the ones that we don't know about. Black lives matter. And if you see this and you get so angry that you feel like you want to unsubscribe, then unsubscribe. I don't want that here. Because if you say all lives matter is a protest of Black lives matter, then you don't support me and what I do here. Thank you guys so much for the support and the love that you've shown me over these years, black man or not. Black lives matter for the last time. I shouldn't have to tell you this. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Agent BlackieChan signing off.